For the record, this is our first recording. But there were tech issues, which is why we're doing this remote.
Of course.
So the other day, this is the worst. I've told people about this, and they're consoling me as if I lost a mother or a father. Like, people get this. This is real. Like, I didn't know how real it was until I started telling people about it. And the next time I need to get away with anything, I'm going to tell them that this happened, and I'll get away with anything I want in the rest of my life. So Monday, we were planning on recording later at night just because I got home. Kelvin Gaston won. Yay. Didn't have time to tape over the weekend. Got home, spent Sunday with the fam. Monday, I'm go to Fight Ready, leave, watching some film, and then go to Siege. Nothing out of the ordinary. Then all of a sudden, I start getting all of these emails from Apple. What was the first one? The first one is, your Mac has made a sound. I got 3 of those. Then I got Apple Pay is disabled on your Mac. I got 2 of those. And then finally I get your Apple ID and Mac have been locked. And I'm like, well, that's problematic. Computer is right in my bag. Nothing weird. Get home, opens in recovery mode. Full failure. Lost everything. Lost everything in my brand new computer. Not brand new. I mean, like 6 months old. Everything is fried. They said, I took it to the Mac store. They're like, hey, we think it was the operating system was trying to update and it corrupted. Lost everything. So anyway, that's why we're recording late. We're recording remote, all of that. I had to go get it fixed. Apple was able to fix it. But man, telling people about that, they were freaked out. People were like, oh man, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry to hear that. Are you okay?
Are you on your new one now or your old one?
So this is actually the new one now. I got back from the Apple store today. So I still do have my old Mac, which, I can use, but this is my new one now. But it's bare bones. I just got it, so I don't even have everything even hooked up yet.
But did they recovered your stuff, or they did not recover?
Nothing. Erased
Apple,
everything.
If you guys are listening out there, my uncle actually works for Apple. If you guys are listening out there, Apple, you need to make this right. Sponsor the show, $5,000 a month, and free laptops to show the world that this is a complete fluke. This never happens, and that we're going to right the ship. So if you're listening out there, Apple, sponsor the program.
My ship is wronged. I had a lot of stuff on there. Honestly, even the money, it was a brand new computer. I didn't have to pay anything, this and that. I would gladly pay a large sum. The amount of work that I lost that I'm going to have to actually go back and redo because of this is it's probably 20 to 50 hours. I know that's kind of a broad range of actual sit down and work is gone. Just doesn't exist anymore.
Somewhere between 1 and 1,000 hours.
Yes. Which is a perfect assessment. So anyway, I know you guys out there have had horrible, horrible Mac stories. Actually, I want to hear the worst thing that you guys lost. Put it in the comments. One time, one other thing that I lost, I was getting ready for grad school and I had some writing. I was actually taking a test online. It was a final for the very last class that I needed before I started grad school. I had to finish this thing. And it was an online test, and my computer froze mid-final. And I had a Sony at the time. It's the last time I had anything but a Sony. This is in 2012. I started grad school. So anyways, 11 years ago, and I'm trying to do this test, and it freezes. So I smashed the computer, because that's the only other thing that you would do is you punch electronics, and it broke. It broke the whole computer, shattered it. I ended up being able to do the test later, but it lost all of the. I went to grad school for writing. I have an MFA in creative writing, and I was going to grad school for creative writing, and all of the stuff that I was going to be working on and doing was on this computer, countless hours of writing work that I needed. So I ended up having to pay $1,700 to ship this computer motherboard off to what they call a white room and get it back. And I got it back. It cost me almost $2,000 to do it. So I'm curious what the most important thing is that you guys have lost when a computer has screwed up. What have you lost? Anything? Have you ever lost anything horrible on your phone or a computer that you couldn't get, that it was erased?
Oh, you're talking about stuff like that. No, I have no idea how to use a
Anything really.
computer. Well, I've lost I've lost a material. I've lost a watch before, but never like a laptop or like IP or anything like that. Um,
Really?
yeah, is that what you're meaning? Just
Yeah.
like intellectual
Like
property on the computer?
yeah, computer crashed, you had a document, a paper, or something that really screwed you up.
I don't know how to use computers, so for me that is nothing. I literally have a $2,000 computer just to do the podcast with you once a week and search the web.
All you need is a Chromebook.
I need bare minimum. I don't even use it. I don't know how to use it. So no, not for me.
All right, man. Hey, we talked about this a little bit. I don't know. I think the last time we were in the studio, what's next for Brandon Moreno? And what did we say should be next for Brandon Moreno? There's only one option.
Pantoja.
And what just got announced?
Pantoja. I actually think this one's going to be an interesting matchup. You know, before I think Brandon, he wasn't in an adult body yet, and he was still fairly new to MMA. I think this matchup's going to be 10 times more competitive than either of the other ones were. You know, Pantoja kind of steamrolled him the last two. I don't think it's going to be that way this time.
Now, we just talking here, just between you and me. Nobody else is going to hear this. Without tape, just thinking about it off the top of your head, who wins that fight?
I thought about it a lot, actually. You know, having trained with Pantoja before and watching a lot of his fights, the guy is one of the most talented flyweights in the world. He's very, very good. He's very, very tough. He hits hard. His jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. He is really that good. The problem that I have with him is he's almost so good that he tries to go out guns blazing and give everything he has so fast. And now you have a 5-round fight with Brandon Moreno, who's a lot more experienced. He's still got very good jiu-jitsu, very good hands, but Moreno can put it together over 5 rounds. So skill for skill, I think Pantoja's probably better. But championship experience, 5 rounds, I'm probably going to give the edge to Moreno. And I think I would probably go Moreno on this one.
Yeah, like without really watching skill matchup style, this and that, I lean Moreno on this just for the fact that, like you said, Pantoja's just throwing down. He's just like, hey, let's go out there and fight. Whereas,
fuck it, let's fight.
Yep. Moreno at this point is like, he's tactical. He's good. He knows how to win rounds. He knows how to win fights. Like he dealt with some adversity with Kai Kara France. He's good. He's good at this point. He's good. Yeah, I would say I kind of lean Moreno as well without kind of watching tape or doing anything there. What else is going on? Hey, Chris Curtis, you always talk about Chris Curtis and how he's always on Twitter and how he's always going nuts. Have you been paying attention to him since the Kelvin fight?
Yeah, I just see a couple things here and there, him crying and whining. I like a poor sport. If I'm gonna be honest, I like a guy who's a poor sport. I don't like somebody who's really good losing. Like, it's okay, whatever. It's what I hate that. I like when people are poor sports, but he's kind of taking that to the next level.
After the fight out of the cage in the back, I went up to him and, I just went to shake his hand, like, good fight. Like, because that was a really good fight. Win, lose, or draw on either side. That was a really good fight. It was fight of the night. It was really tough. So I just went up to him. I was like, hey, man, like, really good fight. Went to shake his hand. And he slapped my hand. And I was like, fuck off. And I was like, okay. And
no way.
Yeah. And his coach, Nick Sick, was there and was like, hey, he's upset. And I didn't take offense. He's upset. He thought he won. Nick Six is super cool too, and I've never had any interaction with Curtis at all. But I was like, hey, he's upset. Whatever, I get it. You're just a little upset. But then seeing everything now on Twitter, like, and now he's saying he's going to appeal with the commission and this and that. I'm like, all right, now we're just getting silly over here. Like, come on.
He's never going to win. I mean, something like that. It's so silly. He's never going to win that. I thought it was Kelvin's fight. I thought he won pretty clearly 2-1. 30-27, he could probably appeal. I mean, but what the hell is that going to do for you?
Right. Yeah. Well, let's get going on this. We've got quite a few fights. 14 in Kansas City. Actually, is there something that strikes you interesting on where this card is and what is missing on this card?
Are you going to say James Krause fighters?
Yeah. It's in Kansas City. We know Krause has had the whole issue of stuff, but it's just interesting to see. I mean, we have Zak Cummings. We've got TJ Brown's a little bit there, but most of those guys, just interesting. We don't really see a lot of those Missouri guys, those Kansas City guys that I thought we would. And I'm curious to see if we see James Krause in the crowd anywhere or whatever. And I like James. I actually really do. And I hope he gets through everything that he got through as unscathed as he can. But I love, hey, look, man, I love drama TV. So I'm always about a little bit of drama.
Well, speaking of which, friend of the show, friend of the podcast, big member of the community, Jeff Molina's OnlyFans just dropped. So if you want to go see some dong,
go
sign up, support the boy.
Go sign up, support the boy, support the dong, support all rights.
All right, well, let's kick this thing off.
Yeah, with that said, Joselyne. All right, so you guys. So we have Joselyne Edwards and Lucie Pudilova. You guys get mad at me because I don't tape a lot of these women's fights. First of all, I did tape this fight, assholes. And secondly, I still don't think you guys should. I wish I hadn't taped it, and I still don't think anybody should bet it. And let me tell you why I don't tape a lot of the women's fights. Brandon, did you see Cynthia Calvillo, Michelle Watterson?
I don't
see the fight.
I don't think they fought. If you're talking about on Saturday, they didn't fight.
They were locked in a cage together with a referee, and judges rendered a decision at the end of 15 minutes of live.
But you're talking years ago? I can't remember because I haven't.
No. They just fought this weekend.
Well, it wasn't Watterson and Calvillo. Calvillo fought Lupita Godinez, and Watterson fought Pinheiro. Pinheiro.
That's who it was. Pinheiro. And then, yeah.
Don't try to be a dick with me when you don't know what you're talking about.
No. I wasn't trying to be a dick. No. They, and then, yeah, Lupi fought Calvillo. And that's the fight I was thinking of, was the Calvillo fight and the Lupi fight. Did you actually watch that one?
In and out.
Okay. Man, like, those fights are so hard to call. And honestly, all of those fights, like, they're just so close. They're just so much of it is predicated on just volume. And then you get these bad decisions because women aren't really hurting each other and this and that. And you're like, dude, like, what the hell is going on here? That's why if I have time, I will watch some of these women's fights, or if something interests me. You get Amanda Lemos. I love watching her fight. God, I will watch tape on her anytime because I enjoy watching that. A lot of these other fights going to this Joselyne Edwards, Lucia fight, there's nothing interesting here. These two are going to fight to a very boring fight, most likely. And it's going to go, I could kind of see, and they're probably not a great bet. So anyway, that's why I don't watch a lot of the women's fights unless I'm interested personally, because look at the JJ Aldrich Ariane Lipsky fight. Like, that shouldn't have happened. I mean, JJ was a huge favorite, and we see stuff like that. And they're just so hard to predict with some of these things that generally avoid the women's fights. Anyway, let's get into Joselyne Edwards, Lucia Pudilova. Kick it off with this one. I'm curious your thoughts before, and I actually did tape this. So,
yeah, I'm a big fan of Lucie in this spot. We've been Joselyne haters from the very, very beginning. She's got zero takedown defense. She's got awful cardio. And honestly, her striking leaves a lot to be desired. Now, in her last fight, she was showing a lot better, throwing front kicks and kind of keeping up some more volume. And she won. Again, very close fight. A lot of people were on Jian Kim, whatever, who I don't think is honestly very good. I'm not a fan of her at all. But Lucie, this is her second stint in the UFC. And she went away for a while, came back, and her stand-up didn't look amazing in that debut fight. But the fight right before she got back to the UFC, it looked decent. One thing I will say about her, she uses her range really well. She's a very long puncher, and they do kind of come from like that little like over the top kind of thing, but she's very long about it. She throws that big kind of like arch, what do you say? Like a 45 we call it, but
yeah,
kind of that up jab.
Like up jab.
She's super clean with it. I really like it. It's basic, clean striking. She's not the most sound defensively. She does get hit time to time, doesn't move her head a lot, but she's so long on girls that sometimes it doesn't matter. Now, Joselyne is also very long, but Joselyne doesn't throw punches very well. She's mostly a kicker by trade. Now, Lucie's wrestling is not phenomenal. It's not world beater, but I don't really think it necessarily needs to be, especially against Edwards. I mean, who just tips over. I will say Pudilova, her jiu-jitsu is honestly very impressive to me.
Her
I
top
was
game
really,
is solid.
yeah, and this is the lost art in MMA right now. It's not only jiu-jitsu, but specifically controlling people's hips and keeping them grounded. I don't see another way that this goes other than Pudilova here. I think they've been trying to get Edwards out for a long time, and they keep giving her matchups that are, for the other person to win. And sometimes she wins, sometimes she loses. But I think this is for Lucie here.
See, in this fight, I know that's the general consensus, and I think that's the smart play here. I look at Joselyne Edwards this week as I did Steve Garcia last week. And like Shyamalan was the better fighter. I mean, we know that, but on the podcast, I was saying, I think Garcia is going to win it because he's just tall and big and lanky, and he just fights weird. And there's just something about Shyamalan where I was like, man, this guy is just a little bit too short. He's going to get hit with stuff, whatever. Like the same thing I said last week is I don't think I've ever been on Garcia for anything because I was on him on Mahashate.
Well, these girls are the same height. Are you aware of that?
100%.
Okay.
Joselyne has a longer reach, though. The thing, though, is that I lean Joselyne on this, and here let me tell you why. I think it's going to come down to, can Lucia get the fight to the ground, and I think she might. And then does she finish and this and that, whatever. But standing, a lot of these girls stay on the outside of Edwards, and then they end up just getting that front kick for days and days and whatever. And they don't really know how to engage. Lucia is actually going to engage with exactly what you said, those kind of long, looping, big punches. But for as critical as I am of Edwards, she actually has really fast hands. And when you engage her in the pocket, she is firing 2, 3, 4 punches, just machine gun style out. And they're actually crisp. They're straight. They're good, clean punches. I think if Lucie comes in, I think she's going to engage in the boxing, and I think she's going to get lit up by Joselyne. Joselyne doesn't throw a lot. She's like 1, 2 moves, this, that. But if you do engage her and you firefight her, she's down to fight. She just doesn't initiate the movement there. I think the range on the outside is going to be that kick. I think she's going to engage in those machine gun. And again, I'm not saying Edwards is a world beater here, but when she does get, when people force her in the exchange, she's willing to do it, and she does it well. The big thing is what you said, is she gets knocked over a little bit. And we saw that with Rose Clark, who can legitimately take people down, and she's good at that. That's what she does. Yeah. But, we saw it with these other girls who have a hard time. I mean, Joselyne has those big, heavy hips, and Lucie is not a great wrestler. And so
it's hard to watch tape with Joselyne's ass out.
I know. Yeah. It's like, I lean Edwards on this. I think people are really big on Lucie here because of the top game and because of the pressure. I don't know that her wrestling is going to be good enough to get it there. And then it's going to be, we talk about this all the time. Is it ground control or the damage that happens while they're standing? The other thing, and this is really interesting, is this is happening in Kansas City. Do you know what happens in what they've been doing in Missouri, what they've been testing?
Barbecue.
The judging? Well, always barbecue, but the judging in Invicta and these LFA shows, it's open scoring. So I don't know if this is going to be open scoring. I hope it is, because they've been doing that with all the Invicta cards, the LFA cards, anything in Missouri.
Not going to happen for the UFC.
Scoring. I would love it. Honestly, do it once as a test run, and we'll see what happens. But I lean Edwards here. I don't think Lucie is as good as people think she is, and I think Edwards is. I think she's getting a little bit better.
Is there a lot of chatter that Lucie's good? Is that the word on the street?
I've been hearing that people think Lucie is good and that like she's going to win. And so I was like, oh, interesting. Like that was kind of like, she's the play here. She's the JJ Aldrich, kind of, okay, she's going to win this. This is kind of a slam dunk.
This girl's minus 160. JJ was like minus 400.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was pretty shocked by that. But I just think that this chick's good. And honestly, I haven't seen elbows like that from a women's fighter in ever. Really, ever.
Yep. Big elbows, big ground and pound. All right, Gaston, Bolanos, Aaron Phillips. I will kick this one off. Gaston Bolanos 6-3, and he signed in the UFC. Do you know his last 3 fights? He had a win in his last fight, 2 losses before that. Like, how in the hell does this happen when we can't? We have guys who are 10-0 who can't get in the UFC. Like, this is a weird one. Gaston was a good kickboxer back in the day beforehand, and we know Sean Shelby loves his fighters with a kickboxing background and whatever. But 6-3 coming out of all of his fights in Bellator, it's just weird. I'm not saying Gaston isn't good, but this is a weird signing at the level where it is. I don't know. It's kind of strange to me. Then we have Aaron Phillips on the other side, who is, I think this is his second stint in the UFC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
0-3 total.
Yeah, 0-3. Gaston is a good kickboxer. We know that. Like, you sneeze. No, you don't even have to sneeze to knock him over. You think about sneezing, and he's going to fall over. But he does actually do a good job of getting in the cage and getting back up. He actually does that well. Aaron Phillips on the other side. You want to know who Aaron Phillips is? He's TJ Brown, and he's Shyamalan Nuremberg or whatever he is. He's kind of good everywhere. He's solid. He's a decent striker. He's a decent grappler. He's a decent wrestler. He's decent cage stuff. But I don't know if he knows what he's good at. If Gaston wants to take the fight to him standing, he's going to keep it standing. If Gaston started wrestling, and Aaron Phillips is a wrestler now. If Gaston pulled guard, okay, now Aaron Phillips is a jiu-jitsu guy. I don't think he knows where he wants to fight, and I think he's actually the better fighter. But I think he's going to, like, if there's a parlay buster, this is it on either side. I don't know who the parlay buster is. I think Aaron Phillips is the more well-rounded fighter and has more ways to win. I think his best way to win is his top game. I think if he gets on top, he actually has really good ground and pound and really good top control. But his wrestling is not great. He doesn't do a phenomenal job wrestling. And he's a southpaw, and he's a little bit, I think, too willing to trade. It's a weird one. I think Aaron Phillips is actually, like I said, the more well-rounded fighter, but I lean Bolanos over just knowing what he wants to do, knowing what his game plan is, having a very specific way to win, and just being a better competitor at that. I think he's going to win this, but nothing would shock me here, but I lean Bolanos.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I remember having a different memory of Aaron Phillips in my head, and I was with you. I thought he was kind of primarily a grappler, which is why this whole matchup didn't make a lot of sense to me. Then I start watching, and you're right. His wrestling is not very good, and honestly, his striking is pretty lazy too. God, the hardest part is that he's been gone for almost 3 years by the time he's going to get into the cage. This fight against Ariston Franca was a pretty awful fight for him. I mean, just looks wise, he ended up winning. Pretty awful fight for him. I mean, he was getting ragdolled. He's, on bottom mount. He's getting rocked on the feet. I mean, that was a pretty awful look and awful fight for him. Now we fast forward 3 years later. He's opened up his own gym. He's teaching classes. I don't know that he's in the I'm still the fighter, the hungry guy mindset. I think a lot of him is, hey, I've had a lot of fights. I've been in the UFC. I have a name. I can run this gym. And now this is what I'm doing, instead of the hungry guy who's just chasing this. Whereas Gaston's the opposite, right? He's 6-3, just got signed to the UFC. It's very rare you get guys signed to the UFC just like that. And like you're saying, with the record that he has, but obviously he's an experienced kickboxer.
The UFC is teeing him up with this. They're teeing him up. And if he can't hit the ball, like, what do you do?
I think they're trying to give him the easiest matchup possible, and I do think he's going to deliver. I wanted to find a way to fade him or see how this fight would go. I don't think this is the spot. Gaston's probably going to get a knockout. Aaron's a little bit too slow on the feet. Southpaw doesn't set very much up. This is going to be a Gaston KO. Now, I will say I did talk to somebody on Easter who has trained with Gaston. He said he is a fish out of water on his back, has no clue about anything that has to do with wrestling. I guess Gaston was asking him, hey, what is this that you're doing? And he's like, dude, I'm just changing my level and shooting a double leg. Like, that's all.
He's like,
I'm not doing anything
changing
fancy.
My shorts. Like, I'm just changing to go to the mat. Like,
which is concerning, but I think
Gaston's
this is
come
going
and
to be
trained with us. Gaston has come and trained with us at Fight Ready. Really good stand up, super nice guy. Like him. He's never like been a part of a camp or anything, but he's been out here a couple of times. Really nice guy, really good kickboxer. Game,
sharp.
knows what he's going to do. But yeah, him on his back, like he's been going to alpha male for a while to try to get better. But gosh, I don't know that his some people can wrestle. Some people can't. Some people can strike. Look at Ben Askren, man. Jake Shields. Those guys were striking for years and years and years and years trying to get better, and they got worse. So not everything's for everyone. I do think he wins it, but man, it's a rough one. All right, let's move on.
Right.
Let me pull up stuff here. Bruno Brasil, Denise Gomez. This is one. I didn't tape this at all.
Okay, well, I'll chat on this one a bit. In it, I love Bruna Brasil. I have been a big
in this
fan
spot or as a human.
Just as a human, she's hilarious to me. First of all, she makes some of the best content on planet Earth. It is hilarious.
What type of content?
Well, she's a lesbian. She's just adorable. I don't know why she's adorable, but she just like plays with the soccer ball and like hikes up mountains, and everything she does is just like hilarious. Like the best Instagram reels ever. And then I just shared this post the other day. I don't know if you saw it. She took the Howler Head whiskey after her Contender Series fight. She shook it up like the car guys and spray it all over, pretending to spray it all over. Hilarious. She's just so funny. She's hilarious. But no, I really like Bruna Brasil. I like Bruna Brasil in this spot. I had a lot of concerns about her going into Contender Series. So, we're friends with the Sucker Punch managers. So we know a lot of their fighters really well. And I always asked, hey, Marnik Man, how's Marnik Man? How's Marnik Man? Dog on a bone. She is just relentless. She's going to, she always presses. She wrestles. She is mean. Right. And so that's who Bruna fought on Contender Series. Well, one thing I was really concerned about with Bruna is her history of staying on her back, her history of getting taken down, fatiguing, a lot of that stuff. A lot of those questions were answered in the LFA fight that she had right before Contender Series, where she was a big underdog. She came back brand new, improved. She looked amazing. One of the things I really like that she does on takedown defenses is she does the wizard kick. She is always doing the judo, the wizard kick. She is excellent at it. And she's actually fighting for top position now. Always trying to come on top. Her Muay Thai is excellent. Her head kicks, obviously, like we saw on the show. I don't think she's a fluke one and done. She has amazing movement. She's in great shape. I think she picks people apart. Denise Gomez, I have known for a long time since her Invicta fight with Dudieva. A lot of her wins have aged well. The Rayanne win aged pretty well. She is mean. She's in your face. I just don't think she's technically sound enough to beat Bruna Brasil. I think Bruna Brasil is a better athlete. I think she's a better technician. I don't really give, after seeing what Bruna Brasil is doing on the mat now with her hips and her judo throws and everything like that, I don't really give Denise Gomez much of an A side. The only place I could see her winning is if she just wears down Bruna Brasil, just pressing her, and getting her ass beat. And then she's got a hope for a finish. Honestly, just like the Dudieva fight. That was, classic Homer Simpson. Got her ass beat, come back and win. So I've already made a play on Bruna Brasil. The line has moved against me, unfortunately, but I still like Bruna in this spot.
Okay, there you have it, guys. There you have it. Next up, we have Lando Vannata and Daniel Zellhuber. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. I'll talk first, but I know we have talked highly of Lando Vannata a lot over the years, just on the way that he defensively grapples and everything. And I was expecting to like him more in this spot with his grappling. We don't really see him offensively wrestle very much. It's almost always defensive. I think the last time we saw him offensively wrestle was with Charles Jourdain, and we saw how that ended up for him. But I think that was the last time. But I like Vannata. I like his movement. I think he's swaggy. I like the stuff that he does. He was moving back up to 155 as I think 45 was just a bad idea. Man, he looked like Skeletor, right? It's like
that was terrifying.
Death. But yeah, he doesn't offensively wrestle a lot. And I mean, he's one of those guys where it's like, how is he going to win a fight? And it's not like exactly like what his game plan is to do it. He's kind of there and he sees what's open. And I kind of like people that what you're getting just in general as a fighter. When I have a fighter, this is one of the things I tell the guys all the time is, how are you going to win? You're down 2.5 rounds. You got 2-3 minutes left to make something happen. Are you going to take somebody down and submit him? Are you going to ground and pound him? Or is it going to be your right hand? Is it going to be a left kick? What is it that you're going to win? And a lot of people don't know that. And I feel like that's Lando right here. Is he's going to move and do stuff, and he looks really good doing a lot of stuff. But how is he going to win when shit goes down? And he's shorter. I think they list him at 5'9", 5'8", 5'9". He's fighting a guy who is massive. I think they list Zellhuber like 6'2", and this is a big ass human. I think Zellhuber shit the bed in his debut. And I think people are expecting that to happen again, or they're kind of looking recency bias right there. But man, Zellhuber throws really good straight punches down the middle, and Lando gets hit a lot with straight punches down the middle. I don't see, honestly, a way standing that Lando has really any success with Zellhuber. I think Zellhuber is just going to be there, marching him down with that good long jab. I think in the clinch, he's fine. I think defensively, he's fine. His jiu-jitsu is fine. I really think Zellhuber is going to have a really bad showing or freak out, or maybe Lando decides to wrestle and he's on top and something weird. Honestly, outside of a very poor showing, I think Zellhuber is going to piece Lando up.
Yeah, I think this is a really good buy low spot. I wanted to talk a little bit about last week, right? One spot that I got way overexposed on and got killed on was Jacqueline Amorim. And honestly, I would make that bet again and again and again and again and again. I'd make it 100 times out of 100 times because I think she was the better play there. We saw that in the first round. She took her down, took her back, was choking her out for 3 minutes of the round. The one thing that I didn't account for was obviously the adrenaline dump in the UFC.
Well, we talked about that. We actually did. We actually said, I think the thing what we said is as long as she doesn't death gas, she wins this fight. And she death gassed.
And I don't even think, I think there's a difference between death gassing and an adrenaline dump. I think they're two separate things because I think we're going to see her next fight and she's not going to have that same like lactic acid buildup because her muscles are so strong and she's so big. She just had that UFC debut.
Adrenaline. Yeah.
Adrenaline just went crazy and she's squeezing for her life and she can't finish. Oh shit, what now? And in a weird way, I feel the same way about Zellhuber. He had an adrenaline dump, but in a weird way. And actually, I talked to her manager, and the way that he described it for her was that she was having a dream where the bad guys were coming after her, and she wanted to throw a punch, she just couldn't. And I felt the same way about Zellhuber. He just couldn't let it go. Whereas you watch a Contender Series fight, he's fighting a guy who's actually legit, actually very good, and we have seen him get wins in the UFC now. And just
gosh, who is it that he fought? He knocked out Trezano. What was his
yeah, it's this Brazilian guy, Lucas Almeida.
Really, really good. He is solid.
High volume, good.
Oh,
yeah,
man, beautiful.
Beat his
fight,
ass. Yeah, it was amazing, and I think you're right. And God, this is such a tough fight for me because here's why. I love Lando Vannata. Lando Vannata actually reminds me of like Chris Gutierrez on this card, where he is so freaking good. Everything he does is amazing, but you're right. How does he go win the fight? Right. He's backing up the entire time, or he's not going out to go seek the win. He's not taking guys down, taking their back and subbing them. He's not knocking them out. He just has all the skills in the world and he can apply them when he needs to. That fight against Mike Grundy was my favorite fight of all time. The fact that that's a split was criminal because I've never seen a better display of MMA skills in a single fight with takedown defense, get ups, striking, offensively wrestling. He looked incredible, but I think he's got a much taller task on his hands, like no pun intended, with Zellhuber. That guy's been working boxing with Pettis at that gym. He's been training at Extreme Couture. He got his first one out of the way. He got the disappointment of losing. I think this is a great buy low spot on Zellhubs.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like it.
And the moving down and moving back up is a big problem too, I believe.
That's always a problem. You move down because you're not having success that you want. It doesn't go your way, and so you move back up. Like, generally, moving weight classes usually isn't the answer. Usually, there's a skill set thing. Yeah, and when you go back up, if you switch weight classes, it's one thing. When you switch and go back, that's generally a red flag as well. All right, next up, actually, speaking of weight class switches, we have Gillian Robertson and Piera Rodriguez. Gillian is dropping, but I think she won. Yeah, she won her last fight against Agapova when she like choked her tongue out of her mouth. Oh, I uh, I rewatched that fight again for this, of course, but I stopped it before the tongue thing came out. I didn't want to see it.
Do you want to take
Freaked me
back
out.
what you were saying last week, or you're still on this Gillian train here?
Um,
Because
I
come on,
I'm not sold on Piera.
come on.
I don't know that. I'm not shouting from the rooftops, but Piera, her striking is almost like volume based. Like it's not overly clean. All right, like it's fine. Her striking is fine, but it is not Miranda Maverick or who's the other girl Gillian fought that beat her ass? Barber. Um, it's fine, but it's a little bit clunky. And Gillian's striking has actually gotten a little bit better. I don't think it's great by any means, but I think it's getting good enough to where she's not taking the damage. Gillian on top is a handful. And Gillian's always small. I think this weight drop, as long as it's not doesn't really affect her, I think is actually good because she looks tiny against the girls that she was fighting at 125. And we talked about Sam Hughes last time. Her biggest attribute is just toughness, and she won't die. And she does actually get back up to her feet well. And Piera, like, man, she barely beat her, and she was starting to gas as well. I'm standing on my horse, man. I'm staying on it. I'm sticking with Gillian here. I like the way that she scrambles. I like the way that she will shoot and find the back. I don't think this isn't like a lock. I'm not screaming it and going crazy, but I think Piera, once she starts fighting more and more people in the UFC, is going to end up beating the bottom, like the really good girls. She's not going to beat, and I think she's going to beat the girls who are like almost like a Jacqueline Amorum type of thing, where she outlasts her for a round or something like that, or she fights the Sam Hugheses who are tough but aren't. She's just a little bit tougher because I think Piera, her biggest thing is she's tough. She's just a tough girl. But I am not wowed by her skills anywhere. And I feel like she slows down quite a bit, which I think is adrenaline based, not cardio based. And I think that Gillian is good at what she does. And girls who can really stop her shot and really make her pay will beat her up. But I don't think that's Piera. I think Piera might stop her shot a little bit. And she might make her pay a little bit, but not enough to really do the damage. And I think Gillian, man, I like Gillian here. I think she knows how to win. She's scrambly. She's wiggly. I don't think Pierre is going to be able to put her away. And I think you give Gillian 15 minutes on a relatively skill for skill, situation toss up. I'm going Gillian here.
I really wanted to be with you because I really do think Gillian's jiu-jitsu is very, very good. It is very, very, very good. But watching the Agapova fight and watching how Agapova just falls down. I mean, freaking Tracy Cortez took her down. I mean, she can't wrestle at all. It tells you all you need to know. But no, seriously, Agapova just falls over all the time. And seeing the trouble, and the problem is it wasn't even the trouble that Gillian had getting her down. The wrestling mechanics were all backwards. She's shooting head on the outside single legs and running it the wrong direction and then pulling it up and pushing it back. And her actual wrestling mechanics are so poor. I'm just thinking, I've seen Piera. I know what Piera is all about. And once she's on her back, it's going to be a problem. I mean, Gillian is going to wipe the mat with her. She's going to submit her. She'll do whatever she wants to her. I just don't know, can Gillian actually do it? Because her wrestling mechanics are so off. And
she grabbed Miranda Maverick, took her back, took her down. Miranda Maverick got back up, and she took her back down again and was backpacking her, who's a lot bigger and I think a better like MMA wrestler than Piera is.
God, I know. That's a tough one, and maybe that is the one that swings, because I will say you're right. Maverick is a lot bigger than Piera. Piera's tiny. I've been in the room with Piera. She's very, very small. Um, Piera's main training partner is Tabitha, who is a much better wrestler than Gillian. I would
But
say
here's something to talk about training wise a little bit. And I'm not going to give too much. Like those girls at that gym wrestle a lot, but how much technique are they drilling? It's almost like, let's just go live a lot, but are they actually getting better at those technical things? And
no, it
I
was
don't
never even
think so.
close.
Right. And that's the thing is I think that Gillian knows where she's good at. And I think she is constantly getting better on a technical level with her grappling. And I think Piera and Tabitha, I think it's like, hey, let's just show up and work hard. But I feel like it's harder.
They're still training in boxing gloves. Yeah, they're still training in boxing gloves for full MMA sparring. Their MMA sparring days are in boxing gloves, which is
going
impossible
1997 MMA training.
All right, well, you're talking me into Gillian. I just, man, the Agapova one was really tough to watch. I know that you're right, and I know she scrambles, and that's literally her claim to fame is, I don't care how bad you beat my ass, I'm gonna stick around, and I'm gonna be so squirmy and wiggly that eventually you're gonna fuck up, and I'm gonna be able to jiu-jitsu you. I understand that's her entire claim to fame. I just can't understand her wrestling mechanics get worse and worse and worse. She looked horrible in the Agapova fight. I just don't get it because now she's at Goat Shed, right? She's working with all these Cuban national wrestlers, all these people that come in to train with her. And her mechanics are just, she's running stuff the wrong way. I don't understand it. I'm going to go with...
Piera had something, sorry, before you even get there, because, I want to, if Piera had something that was like, that's what she's good at, I love it. I could go Piera. But Piera's tough. And that's where she's at. It's not like, oh man, she's going to stop the shot. She's really going to hurt her with striking, or, oh man, she's got great defense and great this or that. But it's just toughness. It's toughness. And I don't think she's that tough. And if she was tough, but she had like JSP, Jonathan Pierce cardio, and she was redlining it. If she was as tough as she is and had her skill set, but she had Sam Hughes' cardio, I'd go, okay, it's Piera. But she doesn't.
Okay, here's where I think this fight is, because I think Piera actually does stop an initial shot decently. She's short, so she's got a low center of gravity. She stops an initial shot very well. Where she has problems is when people start swinging around here. So this fight.
And what does Gillian do?
Exactly, that's what I'm getting. This fight reminds me of the Iron Turtle versus Dennis Tululin, where Dennis is really good at stopping initial shots. When you got traditional wrestling, boom, those hips are in. He stops traditional shots. And then what did Iron Turtle do? Swung around him, got him down, fish out of water, and that was wraps. So I think you've talked me into Gillian. I just don't love this fight. Honestly, all the talk about staying off women's MMA, I think this is the spot to stay off it. I think Piera's a better strike. Yeah, yep. I think Piera is very tough. I think she's beaten better competition. I don't know about better competition, but she's beaten good, fine girls. Like, she's beaten tough people. She's decent volume, decent offensive wrestling, but I think offensive wrestling is going to get her into trouble in this fight. So she's going to have to rely on sprawl and brawl. And then you have someone who's willing to just take an ass whooping like Gillian to finally find your back. That's going to be a problem. So grappling upside, we'll go Gillian, but I'm not in love with the spot here, but Gillian.
All right, next up we have Ed Herman and Zak Cummings. Now, I'm going to let you talk on this because I'm going to say something first. Some of these fights are stupid. Ed Herman has fought once in like 7 years. He's like 55 years old. I think he just bought a house in a retirement community in Sun City, Arizona. And then you have Zak Cummings, who's actually pretty old as well, but just not quite as old and a little bit more mobile. From nothing more than not being as old and being more active, I'm going Zak Cummings on this. This one I had time to tape. I was going to tape it, and I was like, I'm not taping this. This is stupid. What are we doing here? Like, I just, out of spite, I'm not wasting my time with two old people that I don't care about. People can get mad at me because I'm not taping or whatever. I mean, I don't give a shit. Like, who cares? These are two old people. Zak Cummings for the win. There you have it.
Well, just know that the Discord and Twitter communities, they hold us every single pick we make. And if we ever get one wrong, they will hold it over our heads. And it's a Bible verse. You get one wrong, you are a bad person. And you're a horrible gambler, because obviously we gamble on every single one of these fights ever. Every single one we talk
every
about, we
single
gamble
one
on,
that
of
we've
course.
talked about. Oh, we're gonna bet Gillian Robertson. We're gonna bet Gaston Bolanos, all of the money that we have, and we're gonna put them all in a parlay. And then
Each one.
and then I'm gonna bet Joselyne Edwards, and you're gonna throw Lucie in there.
One
All
of us
of
will
your
be
money.
homeless. I have
Yes.
extra room, and you do too. So if we need it, yeah,
Either way.
I was in the exact same boat. I started it, and I'm like, all right, let me try to find a spot for Ed Herman. He's an old, wily guy. He's got some tribal tattoos. You know, like maybe he's gonna win this fight, but he's so old. He's so slow. He's getting his ass whooped by Mike Rodriguez until he doesn't. Like, it's really tough to make a case for him. And Zak Cummings, I just don't think he's amazing. And again, how does he go win a fight? He's just kind of there and swings big hammers, but he's not like taking guys down and dominating them. Like, who's that guy, Nick Lentz? I used to love Nick Lentz because Nick Lentz just goes, takes people down, and he's a jiu-jitsu guy.
Carney.
Yeah, I love guys like that, but Cummings isn't really that guy. He's 4 years younger. He's 38 versus 42. He's at Factory X. So I usually like ATT Portland. I like ATT Portland when it's in Bellator, and their best fighters are fighting guys with no wins. That's when I love ATT Portland. Other than that, I'm going to rock Factory X. But I'm with you. I'm going to go Zak Cummings purely on age, wiki capping because he beat Alessio Di Chirico. Close, kind of weird fight, not a huge edge either way. But Alessio's a real guy. Alessio's got talent and skills, and Herman's looking horrible against all these guys. So I'm going to go Zak literally on that. I started this one, and I did the same thing.
I'm with you. He beat Di Chirico somewhat recently, who's an actual human. Who he's not 32. Yeah. It wasn't 4 years ago. It's like just literally off of that math, I'm there in the stupid
done.
That
Max
we're talking
Cummings.
About this fight. All right. So we have our 4 fight parlay now. Cummings, Gillian Robertson, and we'll keep adding. But anyway.
And this is our identity. We will die for Zak Cummings, just so everybody knows. Oh, if he loses, I will be in a state of depression.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, and as a whole, I think this card I actually like a few spots on this card, and then there are like throwaway spots on this card. So,
yeah,
this next fight is actually my main event: Brandon Royval and Matheus Nicolau. I'm not even kidding. Let me see. Is there something else? I mean, I like the main event. Edson and Billy Quarantilla. We know that'll be fun, just the way they are. But honestly, this fight was the fight that I was looking forward to taping the most. I'm so glad I did. I looked at more tape than I probably even would have, because I was really actually excited about this, because these guys are so similar to me in my head. Watching tape, I ended up like, okay, they're a little bit more different than I thought. But you have two kind of wily strikers, but they're jiu-jitsu. It's just submission, and we're just throwing subs like crazy. So Royval, I mean, he's not the most technical fighter, and he does a lot of stuff wrong, but man, is that dude fun to watch. Like, I bet you him making a cup of coffee is the most exciting coffee cup ever made. Like, everything that guy does is probably just like, dude, I'll sit there and watch whatever's going on. We're in. And he's just one of those guys that won't die. Every position you put him on his back, and he's elbowing you. He's punching your ear. He's pushing you away. It kind of reminds me almost of Carlos Condit back in the day, where no matter what position he was in, he is fighting you tooth and nail. Chases you down, spinning back fist, everything. Like a lot of the Factory X guys. But they actually just got the Magic Man, David Taylor, up there training with them. So I'm curious to see if that helps any of their wrestling. But as a whole, Factory X's wrestling is generally not great. They have good jiu-jitsu, and even more so than they have purple belt jiu-jitsu. And I don't mean that like their guys are purple belts, but
no, it's actually a good thing sometimes.
Yes, it's all submission attacks versus control, position, whatever. So and Royval is a black belt, but he's a purple belt when it comes time to how he fights. Submission,
he rolls like a purple belt.
Yeah, he's just going for everything in the books. Nicolau on the other side, I was watching a lot. Let me see because there was a couple ones that I was really specific about watching. Oh, the Tim Elliott one. That was a very, very, very big one. And then the Matt Schnell one as well. But Tim Elliott, who better to compare a fighter to like Royval than Tim Elliott? I was like, great. And if you look at Nicolau, he runs a lot and he moves, man. He is lateral. He is making you chase him a lot. Oddly enough, his cardio keeps up. But what he does is he keeps moving and moving and moving, and he draws you in, and then he snipes that left hand at you. And I think that's what we're going to see here is Royval is just going to be 110% blazing going in. But I think Royval, with as much as Nicolau moves laterally, I think he's actually going to have a hard time tracking him and finding him and getting a hold of him. And I think he's going to run right into some punches. I think that Nicolau is going to move and move and move. His striking is pretty fundamental. And I think Royval is going to do all of the damage for Nicolau. I think he's going to run into stuff. I think he's going to get clipped. I think he's going to shoot. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him actually get finished in this fight.
Yeah, in a fight like this, I think you have to take the better fighter. I mean, we break it down like this. I think we both agree Nicolau is 10 times the skill for skill the fighter that Royval is. But then you bring the chaos, you bring the ruckus, and that evens the playing field a lot, right? Like, I think Kai Kara France is way better than Royval, but he brings that ruckus and we see what happens. I mean, he's just insanity. I want to love Nicolau and I want to be on him here because I think he's legitimately, I think he's one of the best guys. I like, if we're looking at dark horses in flyweight, it's Manel Kopp, you got Nicolau, Pantoja, like those are the guys that are the dark horses at flyweight. I mean, he really is the goods. He is so skilled. His jiu-jitsu is excellent. He can wrestle. His boxing is crisp. His leg kicks are nice. This is the one fight I've worried about Brandon Royval. Like we have seen Nicolau go to a standstill with Kopp, and maybe that's because Kopp is so fast and just dynamic, and he's always kind of worried about opening up on him, which I get and I understand. I'm worried that Royval just fills the space so much that, again, it just looks good. And you're right. The way that Nicolau moves along the cage, he's always moving, which isn't necessarily the best style to fight against somebody who is a volume puncher, who's going to chase you down and just volume you to death.
See, I disagree. I think it is. I think somebody who's like Royval, I think if you stand there and trade, and not even stand there and trade, but I think if you're even remotely in punching range at that, chaos can ensue. But if you're literally chasing somebody and then they snipe back at you, it's so hard to track somebody like that. I think it takes, I don't even think it takes two people to chaos, but I think it takes two people. And Nicolau runs so much that Royval is going to be fighting himself a lot until Nicolau snipes back in.
I agree with you. I just meant from not from the fighting aspect. I agree with you. And we've been talking a lot about that, making people chase you, putting a stamp on it, moving back out. You know, we've done that a lot. I think I mean from the optics for the judges standpoint, people who don't necessarily know what they're looking at. Even I catch myself sometimes watching fights and I'm like, well, the guy who's advancing it has to be winning this fight because he's advancing. He's putting stuff out there. He's looking more active. And I will say, this is the annoying part about Royval. You hit it on the head. He gets taken down. He's throwing elbows. He's kicking your back. He's doing whatever he can to get strikes in. And that looks so good for the judges, especially against Nicolau, who is a black belt and a very good black belt, but he's a very control-oriented black belt. He's going to control your hips, make sure you're pinned. He's very clean like that. And I worry that Royval just elbowing his head is gonna win points. I want to go.
Wait, even before you go there, hold on. I'm going to Gillian Robertson right here before you make your pick. Watch that Danger Schnell fight back with Royval. Schnell won every second of the grappling exchanges, everything until he just panicked on that guillotine really quickly. Like it was like
two-hand tap, two-hand. I could never get over that two-hand tap.
To a one-handed guillotine as well. But I mean, Danger was infinitely better than Royval grappling as a whole until he just panicked and tapped. I think Nicolau is going to be even better and won't two-hand tap if he gets somebody touches his neck.
Yeah, he is better. I'm going to go Nicolau. He's the better fighter. I'm a big fan of Nicolau. I'm a big Royval hater, always have been. I don't know why. It's just every time he fights, I get worried because he's just so spastic and crazy and just all this stuff. Nicolau is 10 times the fighter that he is. So I'm gonna go Nicolau, but that's just my only concern on this fight.
Okay. What do we have? TJ Brown, Bill Algeo. Ride with it. I know you love some Bill Algeo.
I love, what is his nickname again?
What is his nickname?
It's a great nickname.
It is.
Senor
Perfecto.
Perfecto. Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
how awesome is that?
I am like the biggest Algeo fan in the world. I love this guy. This is a dream matchup for me because we've talked about TJ Brown. This is probably our third or fourth time breaking down TJ Brown. He is very skilled. He's got good kickboxing. He's heavy-handed. His jiu-jitsu is pretty good. He can wrestle when he wants to. His cardio is a lot better than I would think that it would be for how he's built and necessarily how he fights. But his fight IQ is questionable at best. I mean, he's a nincompoop with skills, and that's the problem with him. And I would say that Bill Algeo is on the other end of things, where he is not the strongest, not the most dynamic. He's not a bad striker. He's pretty technical. He's pretty clean. His jiu-jitsu is amazing. But his fight IQ, I am in love with his fight IQ. Every time he's taken down, people can't hold him down. He knows when to gas guys. He knows when to pump the brakes. He is an ultra vet. I love me some Bill Algeo. Everything that I've seen with TJ Brown, he's on the beach in Mexico, drinking tequila every day, getting tattoos, not training seriously. And then you got Bill Algeo, who's just, blue collar. He's a workman's workman. I think he's got the way better fight IQ, even if the skills are somewhere close, right? They both have good jiu-jitsu. They're both good strikers. Algeo is just the man. He's swaggy. He's confident. I love his low hands. I love the way he draws people in. I love the way that he puts his jab out there and puts combinations together. And then his defensive grappling, I think, is so clean. He does get taken down, but he's always popping back up. Like, you can't hold the guy. And he knows what he's doing, and he doesn't panic in bad spots. This last guy that TJ Brown fought, training Costa Rica, that had zero grappling. And I heard he came to one of the gyms and got washed by blue belts. So don't use that fight as a basis for anything. Algeo is a black belt. He is clean as they come. I got Senor Perfecto.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with TJ Brown is he's short. He has a short reach.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing. But when you're in a division with people who can get to 5'10", 5'11", and 6 feet, there's something wrong with that. And he rushes in, he lunges in, and it's not the end of the world when you have somebody who's in a square stance and is going to fight you squarely where you can rush in and go. But Bill Algeo is so bladed and he's so narrow. And that's going to make it really hard for TJ to find his way inside because, of course, he has that lead side kick and he's got that jab. And that bladed stance is going to allow him to kind of angle off to his lead side a little bit easier as TJ is blitzing and, of course, counter him and then move. And then you said his takedown defense, but let's get even a little bit more specific on that. TJ's takedowns are good. They're fine. They're decent. There's, runs you to the cage, rushes you, tries to get a double, lift you up. But what Algeo does is he's long, so he drapes over the top. Well, one, he'll dig for double unders, which I love. He gets double unders, and he'll start steering you away versus one over, one under, or coming over the top. But if you do
Bill Algeo is just you. He's just you, but another guy.
Yeah, which is, I love me, so I love Bill. So
you guys got the same build, same height.
Yeah. So what he does though is he drapes over the top, and he'll either grab just under the butt on both sides and kind of hold you in, or he laces one hand over and one hand under in between the legs, and he will like crotch lift right there, or even just pull you in and hang on you. And what that does, so of course it defends the takedown, but really you're there. And when you're in that position, you almost think you can win. And so you keep fighting it way after you should. And you're fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. And you go, crap, I just wasted a lot of energy. And then you end up not getting there. Then you have to back out because his weight is on you. And then your legs start getting like tired and fatigued right there. So not only do you not get your takedown right there, you get fatigued, but then you're the one who ends up having a back out, which ends up the person on top will generally end up winning in the scramble or the position right there. So just that defense alone, Algeo's cardio is good. TJ's cardio is not bad, but he's so apish with it that it's kind of uncontrolled. So sometimes you're like, oh, is he gassed here? And it's almost like Dreykus Duplessis, where you're like, this dude is so tired, but he just keeps going, and he kind of just somehow makes it work versus being controlled. I really like Algeo here. I think he's a cleaner, better fighter. I think it's probably going to be a decision, but I think Algeo is going to have some really good, clean rounds that he looks very good against, but they're very clear Algeo rounds.
The fact that Algeo couldn't finish Brito when Brito was on death's door on cardio death was concerning. So, I mean, Algeo by decision's got to be, it's a must play, right?
Yeah. And the fact that Algeo didn't really put all the heat on Herbert Burns either, and he ended up stopping in between rounds and quit instead of him just beating him. Algeo's a point guy. Like, he's going to do his thing. He's going to point himself. And we saw it with Andre Fili this last one. Fili beat Algeo because he's tall and lanky and pressed him and was able to push him back with those punches and that forward volume. TJ is going to do the same thing, but the way that he loops his punches and kind of like shot fakes, I don't think is going to have the same success as the taller Fili.
Death taxes and Algeo by decision.
Yep. Clay Guida, Rafa Garcia. Am I up? Are you up? Am I up?
Go ahead on this one. I want to.
I'll do this. I think this fight a few years ago, I think Clay Guida could, probably win it. This fight now, the Guida that we know, that we used to know, who used to come over for dinners and hang out, 10 years ago, was
that I used to know.
He was level changes in your face, pressing the cardio, long hair, breaking you down. The Guida now is controlled, and a controlled Guida can't win. I mean, he's got that jab. He still has his level changes, but he doesn't press the pace as much. I love his jiu-jitsu, or not jiu-jitsu, his cage wrestling. We saw against, was it Bobby Green that he was lifting with that high crotch and golf swing? I think it was Bobby Green that we saw him do that with pretty recently. Yeah, I think it was Bobby Green. No, it was Michael Johnson. I'm sorry. It was Michael Johnson, where he kept getting that.
That's pretty racist. All the black guys are the same.
Well, they fought right one right after the other. But I mean, his lateral movement is really what does the work now, and he's kind of a little bit more evasive than he used to be pressuring. And I think against Rafa Garcia, who's people like to talk about the Gritzmacher fight, but Gritzmacher is kind of like Guida was years ago, in your face, just pressing you, elbows. Like, that's a very, very good comparison. If this was a couple years ago, Guida wins the same way that Gritz did, but he doesn't pressure the same way. He doesn't quite have the chin that he used to have. Rafa Garcia is now up at Elevation. He's up in Denver with those guys, training with Gaethje and all those guys. I like his, I like his boxing. I like his fight IQ. I thought he beat Drakkar close. In that fight, I like Rafa Garcia here. It wouldn't surprise me to see Guida like have a great showing, and end up, because these two things are pretty close. But if I had to go, I would say 60% Rafa, 40% Guida. Very similar in style, but I like the chin. I like the cardio. I like the youngness and the willingness to fight and throw down a little bit with Garcia. I like him here.
Yeah, he was pretty raw when he got into the UFC. He was a Combate America's golden boy, and he was undefeated and all this stuff. He finally moving from Indio, California, moving to Elevation and training with Gaethje and Usman and all these guys full time. Our friend of the program, Ryan Charlebois, there's added skill to him. He's actually added like real legitimate skill. He's been in every fight that he's had. I mean, he's looked good. He really has looked good. Beating Ma Shate is honestly a pretty pretty good win. The Jakar fight was super close. His wrestling isn't perfect, but man, he's persistent with it. He knows how to cut the angle and just drive forward with it. He's willing to stay in your face. And you're right. Watching the Guida of old, watching him now, he stays with his back on the cage, comes in with big looping punches, level changes, and can't really hold many people down. I think the Holtzman should have beaten him, but his chin just couldn't hold up. I think you got the way younger guy who does have wrestling upside himself. He can go takedowns on Guida. Why not? I think the way that Guida has just kind of positioned himself these days, he's okay losing. You're seeing him take these grappling matches. You're seeing him do jiu-jitsu, wrestling. You're seeing him fight. He's okay losing. He's had such a long career. He knows he's not going for the title again. Whereas I think Rafa wants it. I mean, Rafa fights hard as shit every time. He's fighting every few months at this point. I mean, he's just always in shape, always improving, always getting better. He's in the room with Gaethje and Usman every single day. I mean, the guy's adding to it. I played this one probably a little bit too early before I got to sit down with the tape because I agree with you. I'd probably go 65-35 Rafa. But what's funny is one of the stats that came on when he was fighting Machate, it was like 62% of the fighters that have a 5-year age difference, the younger fighter wins 62% of the time. And now we're seeing 42 to 28 or whatever Rafa is. I got to go with the young man's game and the young man's sport.
I like it.
Rafa Garcia.
All right. I'm with it. I'm with it. Next up, we've got Pedro Munhoz, Chris Gutierrez. And I saw, what is Gutierrez? What are the odds on this? Because I was, where are we at? Munhoz is plus 170 and Gutierrez is minus 210. Give me your thoughts on this. I'll give you mine afterwards. I think you're up on this.
Okay. I completely understand the play on Pedro Munhoz. I understand it. I get it. I've loved Pedro. Pedro is one of my favorite fighters. He's jabs, low kicks, good takedown defense. I mean, the guy is just solid as they come. He's an ultra veteran of the game. I love me some Pedro Munhoz. That being said, he never shoots takedowns. And that is consistently one of Gutierrez's biggest flaws in his game is getting taken down and not getting back up. So if we're not going to see that, now we're talking about a kickboxing affair. And it's almost going to remind me of what you were talking about with Royval and Nicolau, right? Gutierrez is so much lateral movement, back on the cage, so much lateral movement. But I really do think, just like Lando Vannata, who we were talking about earlier, he's so skilled. The way he feints, the way he moves, it just like he knows everything that he's doing. Like he's just such an educated, beautiful striker. I love me some Pedro Munhoz, but he's a lot of times very basic. Jabs and low kicks, jabs and low kicks, jabs and low kicks. I don't know why. It's hard to break this down from a technical spot for me because I think it's going to be a lot of leg kicks. It's going to be a lot of in-close fighting, and then it's going to be chasing and circling. It's going to be how do the judges score the forward pressure versus the counter punching. I feel that people don't give Chris Gutierrez the credit that he deserves. He has lost rounds before. He lost the round to Dana, who trains at Fight Ready now, but he was winning the entire round until he did the stupid spin kick. But I don't think Pedro's going to grapple with him. I don't think he's going to exploit those holes, exploit that stuff. So now it's a kickboxing match. I think I got to go Chris Gutierrez here. I just think he's clean, sharp. He offers so many different techniques, so many different angles, so always moving, cutting, low kicking. I got Gutierrez in this spot.
When I saw the odds, I was like, oh, Munhoz plus 170. I'm like, man, there's got to be a way for him to win. And I'm with you. Like I was looking and trying to find it, but Munhoz is, what is he?
It's going to be the Dom Cruz fight without the bad chin.
He's 36 years old, and the Munhoz that we know who came in onto the scene, you know, attacking necks and pressing people, and he was never a great wrestler, but he would shoot and he would attack and he would jiu-jitsu. He's just a striker at this point. And he's an okay striker, but you're going against a really good striker. And we talk about this a lot. Generally, when you have somebody who is just standing there, almost Muay Thai style, and I don't think Pedro Munhoz is Muay Thai style. He moves a little bit more. But when somebody's more stationary and wants to dig their feet in and swing against a guy like a Basharat, who's willing to like touch and move, unless you're really, really, really good at standing and digging your feet in and finding that, Dan Henderson H-bomb, more often than not, the guy stuck in the mud loses. It's the guy with the better footwork and willingness to move in and out and around who wins it. And Gutierrez's low kicks are just a thing of freaking beauty. And he knows to throw them. He knows to set them up. And then he starts adding his hands. And what he does such a freaking good job of is his, I want to say lateral movement, but it's not just lateral. It's not like he's shuffling left and right. He will move backwards when people press him. He will take a step back and then take a rear step. So if he's in orthodox stance, he'll take a step back and then take like a step to the right. And that draws people in, and then he will fire those low kicks at him. But then if they try to cut him off, he switches to southpaw and he takes a step left. And so then now they can't cut him off, but then he turns that opposite stance and starts firing kicks from that side as well. And then we saw this with Israel, and we saw it with Bohachina, how he kept shifting his stances so Boha couldn't really find him. He couldn't track him. And when people are able to seamlessly shift right, orthodox to southpaw as others are chasing him, it sets up really, really big traps. And you start seeing Munhoz lunge in, and we're going to start seeing the spinning attacks from Gutierrez as well. We saw him hit Denal with that. We see him land that quite a bit when people start pressing him. And his lateral footwork and angles, I think, are just going to be the key here. He can, throw some knees. He'll do some other stuff up the middle. But, man, I like Gutierrez here. I think I've been a hater on him a little bit, not like horribly, I'm big on Jonathan Martinez from Factory X. I like Gutierrez, but I haven't always been as high on him as I am now. I'm starting to really like
He's good.
Gutierrez.
He's good.
And I'm giving him his due. And I think he's going to have a really good showing here.
You only like guys after they knock out Frankie Edgar. Is that all it takes for you? They have to knock out Frankie Edgar to get your approval?
Yeah. I mean, what else?
You were like Sandhagen. I don't know. You picked Frankie over Sandhagen. You're like, Frankie's gonna beat Sandhagen. He's gonna take him down.
I said Frankie was gonna axe kick him and flying knee him, and then it didn't happen. And so we're here.
Since that day, you've been all about Sandhagen.
I actually think, I'm sure I've told you this 100 times. But him and I were in the same bracket at nationals together, high school wrestling nationals. He's my age, and so I always. Of course, I always loved Frankie as champion and stuff, but then his, we were at nationals together. He were in the same bracket, but then also his son's first name is Santino as well. So
that's right. I heard Anik say that.
Yeah, we're tied like at the hip. Like, and he grew up in Jersey. I grew up in New York. I just want to be friends with Frankie, and so you beat Frankie.
Anik, can you make this happen?
Yeah, Anik, if you're out there, I need to hang out with Frankie and his son, and we'll just I'll bring my son Enzo. He brings his son. And my son's middle name is Santino. There's too many coincidences here. All right. That said, Gutierrez.
Wait, which one of your son's name is Santino middle name?
Enzo.
Enzo Santino DeFranco?
Yep.
It's a bit arrogant, I think. Anyways.
Yeah. And separate from that, though, I think the best ever is Lennox, my other son. His middle name is Valentine. Lennox Valentine.
That's pretty cool. He sounds like an old timey Prohibition era gangster.
I was hoping that's what he would do, but I didn't have a time machine.
He'll make one. He's smart. All right, what do we got next?
Tanner Boser, Ian Cutelaba. Oh, speaking of children, I had to at some point today. I don't know how. Enzo asked me, "What is sex?" So I had to have that talk today.
Nice. How'd it go? What is it actually?
Man, that was really, I'm like, well, how much do you want to know? What's going on, this and that? So I tell him the whole bit. I'm like, all right, man's penis, woman's vagina. He's like, what's a vagina? I'm like, well, it's.
Did he really say that? I thought kids his age would know by now.
That's what I thought. I thought he has got to know
internet
this.
And
the whole thing. So anyway, kind of explain the whole thing, and we're getting in. I'm like, so then my wife is there too. And she's like, well, did you tell me that's where, babies come from? And I was like, yes. So what happens is men, they've got sperm, which they look like little tadpoles, and they swim in, and then they go inside the egg. And he's like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that I have little tadpoles in my penis, and they swim and go inside of an egg, and that's what a baby is? And I was like, I know it sounds kind of crazy. It sounds, when you put it like that, it sounds kind of weird. But yeah. And he's like, okay. And I mean, that was my day right before we got on the podcast over here. So Tanner Boser, Ian Cutelaba. What you got? Or I'm up.
Yeah, you go. I don't know where the hell to go with this one.
So I have always been a Cutelaba critic, and you have always been a Tanner Boser critic. You've always said Tanner Boser is the biggest nothing burger on the planet.
Is it time to switch?
I've always said Ian Cutelaba is like the biggest ape and always will find a way to lose a fight. So is it the nothing burger or the ape that you bet? I think the smart play here is you bet the nothing burger that he just doesn't screw up. But I think Cutelaba is better everywhere.
Yeah.
I legitimately do. I think his striking is better. I think his wrestling is better. His ground and pound is good. But then he just does dumb shit and loses. So like, he has lost 3 in a row. He lost to Ryan Spann, which was just dumb. He lost to Johnny Walker, and then he lost to Nchukwi. He beat Devin Clark, and then he lost to Ankalaev twice. Those 2 Ankalaev fights.
Oh,
like
amazing.
The first one, like, oh my gosh, it's just insane.
Hey, have you seen how shredded Boser is, though?
No, I have not.
Let me see. Can you see this?
No, it's just blurry enough. Oh yeah, I can see a little bit. Yeah, he looks lean.
He's goddamn shredded, because I've been around Boser a few times. He's been chunky fat, and now he's fucking shredded.
Now, I'm not done. And here's so Boser has lost to Nascimento by split decision. Beat Ovince St. Preux, who is, if there's a nothing burger, it's Ovince St. Preux. Tell me that's not true. Who is bigger nothing burger than St. Preux at this point?
I don't know. Boser's up there. That's tough, but I guess you'd have to give it to Ovince if he lost.
Right.
That was for the NBC championship. What is it? The nothing burger championship. The BMF.
Yeah. So then he lost to Ilir Latifi by split, and then Orlovsky by split. I've got to think that Boser is just going to do enough touching and not getting swung on, and like for Cutelaba, he just has to last long enough for Cutelaba to find a banana peel to slip on. So I lean Boser here. I mean, he does nothing well, but he doesn't make mistakes either. Whereas Cutelaba does a lot of stuff well and makes so many mistakes. Man, have we seen him get and Boser's not being finished. So I've got to assume he's not going to be finished. And if he's not finished and this goes to a decision, I think it's got to be Boser by doing
How does he win, though?
Shit. How does
Because
Joselyne...
Cutelaba can wrestle his ass off.
Yeah.
That is the one thing. He can fucking wrestle. And his top game is insane. Look what he did to Devin Clark.
Look,
that's the part I worry about.
Stop right there. Stop right there. You have said enough to sway me. Because Cutelaba legitimately will like throw, and he will wrestle, and he will do stuff. Whereas Boser isn't like going to jump to guillotines like Ryan Spann and really do a lot of amazing stuff like Johnny Walker. He's just going to be there long enough, and big punches score, takedown score, action scores. And if Boser is just doing enough to not lose, then I think those big movements will actually sway. I'm on the Cutelaba train.
Yeah, Republic of Moldova. They need a hero. After Vasily Supervici lost, they really need a hero, and I think Cutelaba is going to be the guy. No, I bet Cutelaba in every freaking fight that he's had, and I keep getting my ass destroyed because I'm like, this guy can actually wrestle. He's improved his cardio over the years. Big punches, like he kind of fights through his exhaustion. He's looked so good at sometimes, and then you're right, just somehow just loses it. He's horrible.
Yeah.
So
I think the thing with
Boser
this
on his
card,
back is just not good.
No. But I think with this card, I think a lot of this, I think it's probably like half and half. Like half of the fights were like, hey, I like this fight. I like this winner. I like this. And the other fights were like, don't. Yeah, like you guys, there's a lot of cards coming up. You don't have to bet every fight on every one of them.
Next week, double bare knuckles, double Bellators, LFA, UFC.
Let's move on. I'm good with that. I mean, that's like some of these fights, they're just fights for fights. I mean, we'll watch them, but
add him to the parlay.
Yeah. Next up, we have your boy Dustin Jacoby as Matt Mirzakhanov. Give us thoughts on this because I actually like this fight and I like it as a bet. I'm curious to hear your thoughts first.
Yeah, well, I'm Azamat hater number one. I think he's got awful cardio. I think he's way undersized and he's beating guys who are not worth their salt, big old fat guys. Man, he was about to die against Tafon until he didn't. And now you got a big, long striker, a guy who's going to put a jab and a low kick in your face the entire time, who's been in there with the best guys in the world in kickboxing, Simon Marcus, Alex Pereira, all these guys. A guy who stands up when he gets taken down and has pretty good takedown defense. Give me some DJ all day. Usually I'm worried about these guys starching DJ because he puts his chin out there all the time. And this weirdly is the one I'm not worried about. I was way more nervous with Lord Michael than I was on this one. Weirdly, I just think DJ manages range so well. He does a good job staying out of danger. Give me some DJ all day on this one.
Jacoby's long, he's tall, and more than anything, he's active. Volume. Mirzakhanov does his volume. He go back and watch old Igor Vovchanchin. Kind of bounce. Whoa, easy there, killer. We're over here dropping mics all over. So he kind of bounces. He's shorter, and he sways that lead hand. If you guys can see me, he kind of swings it, and he kind of bounces, and he doesn't do a lot until he blitzes with that big left overhand. And then every once in a while, if he lands, he'll throw that big right overhand. Now, when he's in the pocket and throws, the dude hits hard. He's swinging. He's in there and he's going. Outside of that, he doesn't really do a lot. And then on the other side, you have Jacoby, who, first of all, he won that last fight. He beat Khalil Roundtree. I was watching that fight again, knowing that he lost the fight, going, how in the hell did he lose this fight? And I actually texted or messaged Mark Montoya, his coach, after the last one, Jacoby's. And him and I are, pretty cordial. We see each other. We'll grab lunch or dinner when we're out at fights and hang out. I really like Mark Montoya, really solid guy. But, I just told him, I said, dude, like he won that fight. Like I am like unbelievably amazed that somebody gave him that, Roundtree, that fight.
Just sucks because he's 35 and like that's like he was on one final push for a title. Yeah, and it just cuts your momentum and it just sucks ass.
It really does. But Mirzakhanov is a southpaw. Jacoby, who has beautiful leg kicks, is orthodox. However, he will switch his stance. And against Roundtree defends kicks, he checks kicks. Mirzakhanov isn't going to do that. Jacoby is going to switch southpaw, blast low kicks, pepper the jab, switch back. He's not a amazing wrestler, even defensive wrestler. He's good. Jacoby's a good defensive wrestler, but he does the right stuff. He gets back up to his feet. He does defend the takedowns pretty well, and he's got good cardio. The volume, we're not seeing him get hurt and rocked. He's got a chin. Khalil Roundtree swings, I would say, as hard as Mirzakhanov and swings a lot more and is a lot more aggressive and in your face. And I think Jacoby handled that well. I thought he won the fight, and I think he's gonna clean Mirzakhanov up. I'm with you. I like Jacoby here quite a bit.
I love it when an American can get over on one of those little neck beards. That always makes me happy.
Oh, happiness. Next up, we've got speaking of Jacoby, talking about middleweights, we have a guy now, Cesar Almeida, who's been over with us. Do you know who Cesar Almeida is?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so he's 3-0 in MMA. He came up for Calvin's camp. He has 13 rounds against Alex Pereira in kickboxing. He fought him 2 5-round fights and then a 3-round fight. He lost the first fight by decision, beat Pereira in the second fight, and then lost a decision in the third. He just fought for the glory belt and lost a close decision in Italy against a hometown boy. And all he does now that he's been up there with us is first of all, he's the nicest, sweetest human on the planet. He's like, I just want to wrestle, coach. I wrestle all day. That's all he's doing is wrestling. So, man, he's 3-0. I think we'll be able to get him on Contender. Try and get another win, get him on Contender or something this year. But man, he's a little bit older. I think he's 35. So he's got to get a quick push. But man, striking is just solid. So anyway, made me think about that. Oh, those guys are 205. Wow. I was thinking they're middleweights, but whatever. Anyway, we've got Billy Quarantillo, Edson Barbosa. I love Billy Q. I love his in-your-face press cardio brachia style. And Barbosa, I have loved. I'm sure I've said this a million times on the podcast. When Barbosa was 6-0, me and Jason Chambers, if you guys know who he is, he was the Human Weapon host, and he had a show and was a Bellator commentator and stuff. Him and I threw. We did Shine Fights. We did the tournament. So that was Jason and my doing matchmaking, did all of it, got it all going. And we actually signed Edson Barbosa, Marcus Aurelio, I think it's Aurelio. And both of them bailed like the week before because he was 6-0 and we found him. And we were like, this dude we want this guy. We tracked the whole world. And that was the guy. He's number one on our list. He actually signed the contract with us and ended up pulling out and bailing, and the UFC signed him right before our show. But anyway, looking at him from then, he's 22-11 now. And I've been following this guy since he was 6-0, even beforehand. His main kickboxing coach is the same, back in the day was the same one as Aldo and all those guys. I have always loved Edson Barbosa. Lately, of course, we've seen him death gassing and doing poorly, and we know what we're getting with Barbosa right now. Watching him with Bryce Mitchell was the most frustrating thing I've ever seen in my life because he would get taken down and did not even try to get back up. Oh, it broke my freaking heart. I like Barbosa here. I think he is going to starch Billy Q. And I think Billy is going to press. I think he's going to get leg kicked. I think that's really going to make him second guess some stuff. But more so than anything is I don't think he really needs to volume his way in and break you. But he's not a phenomenal wrestler who's going to get this crazy takedown, he's in your face swinging. And if you go back and watch the Burgos fight, I mean, Barbosa slows down a little bit, but man, he knocked him out in that third round and he's fine. If you're not wrestling him hard, you're not going to break him cardio wise. And I think the inside leg kicks are actually going to be the difference here. I think Barbosa's outside leg kicks are going to go. Then the inside leg kicks are going to get him off balance because he's so pressure heavy. And I think that's going to lead to him getting knocked out. And I generally want to go with the guy with the better cardio and who can press it. And Barbosa's getting older. I don't think this is Barbosa's last fight. And I really like him over Billy Q, who I think we've probably called every Billy Q fight correct since we've been doing the pod. And I love me some Billy Q. I think Barbosa is going to have a really good showing here.
I am happy you said that, and I agree with you 1,000%. Watching back the Alex Hernandez fight, so I actually watched back the Burgos fight and the Alex Hernandez fight for Billy Q. I thought he looked really good in the Burgos fight. Like, he was pretty high volume in your face, like trying to do the same thing. But Burgos has good cardio. I mean, he was right there with it. Man, in the Alex Hernandez fight, he got his ass beat for 6.5 minutes. And the way that he's throwing his jab, right? He throws that jab and kind of he ducks his head so low every time. What is Barbosa's
left middle weapon? Kicks?
that left middle kick. He has the fastest switch kick of all time. All I can see in this fight is Billy Q doing this, Barboza timing it, and he is knocked out. Leg kicks too, right? He's so bladed and so heavy on that front foot. Those leg kicks are going to be a problem. The knees up the middle every time that Billy shoots. I mean, Barboza's got so many weapons, and Billy just looks so slow until you finally break, and then he's like, I'm still okay, kind of here. He's pretty sloppy. Like he's sloppy in every position.
Very sloppy.
Go back, watch his old fights too. He's pulling guard. He's doing all kinds of crazy jiu-jitsu stuff and triangles and all kinds of stuff on his back. Now he just kind of throws this until he can get in your face and do that enough. It's insane watching him break guys like that. It really is insane because he's not super sharp and technical. He's just tough as fuck and sticks around and stays in your face. But man, Barboza is so much sharper, and I just can't get that image out of my head. Him leaning over so much, and it wasn't like how we do, right? Where we're changing levels and we're kind of getting that misdirection. He's just leaning and keeping his head out there just to be killed. Yeah, I'm going Barboza on this one too. And I think the other big difference is the jiu-jitsu of Bryce Mitchell gave Barboza trouble. He was not afraid of him. He was getting him worried about the hands, and he was pressuring him, but he was a little bit sharper than I think Billy Q looks. Maybe not as much volume, but he wasn't afraid of Barboza. And then the threat of the takedowns was there. I think he's a better wrestler than Billy Q probably. And his jiu-jitsu and control was better. And he's just mean. Man, I just like lateral movement and picking him apart and just big leg kicks, big head kicks. Give me some Barboza on this one.
Yes, I like it. Main event. We're ticking past an hour and a half here. Before we get to it, you guys, we didn't even say this. We ran right into it. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on the Discord. Yeah, I mean, that's it. We're not going to go heavy into that right now. You guys know the drill. Check out last week. Number one, I think I forget who posted these up on Twitter. But I went 9-1 last week on my pod picks, and I think that was the number one showing. So
you got a couple people. So Brian, the XBL on Twitch guy, I think he keeps track of it every week. So you killed it there. And then free UFC bet picks. I think that's what it is. It's just a mouthful. It's a huge thing.
Yeah.
They got a Patreon too. Go sign up for that one. It's cool. It's $5 a month, and they give you all the breakdown and stuff. But you won that competition and got the little jewel.
Oh, okay, nice. I didn't know about that one. So, anyway, yeah, I don't know. Last week,
and wait, hold on. Not only did you get that, but you didn't pick one or two fights. So you won that competition without picking like one or two of the fights. You had less to choose from.
So there you have it. Yeah, it was pretty. I got Jacqueline Amorum wrong, but I mean, honestly, even that on a constellation prize was. She's better than her as long as she doesn't get death gas. And, hey, so it wasn't like she got beat up round one and the skill set wasn't there. She
just takes this hand and moves it here, and we're not even having this fucking conversation. It drives me insane. Everyone wants to victory lap Sam Hughes, like, man, you're an idiot for betting him more. It's like, she took her down, took her back, and was choking her for 3 minutes. She gets here and has a girl a little bit less tough. We're not even having this discussion. It's so dumb.
Yeah. It's crazy. The other one, man, so just even before we get in the fight, it was a good week for me, a day. It was a really good day for me. Kelvin Gastelum won. That was, man, he looked great. Chris Curtis can be as mad as he wants, but Kelvin had like a 20-month layoff. He's been through hell and back, so he won. We had another amateur from Fight Ready who won. We had 3 guys from Siege who won all in the same night. Then we're getting weird here. Both of my kids won their football games. Enzo, I think, threw for like 5 touchdowns, just killed it. Lennox ran for a touchdown and a receiving touchdown. I went 9-1 on the picks. I should have bought a lotto ticket because I'd be out at this point. Like, that was my day. So anyway, that was a good one. And now we've got Max Holloway and Arnold Allen. So how do you want to do this? You want to go?
You go ahead.
Want me to go?
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
So on a technical level, of course, we'll get to that. I was wondering, so I guess I'm privy to some conversations and some information that not everybody is. And maybe this might get leaked and maybe some people might know this and whatever, but people have wondered about Max Holloway's mental state Not like he's crazy or anything, but his brain damage. Like, is he having brain damage? And there's a lot of issues that have been going on with that people have been questioning, from organizations to, other people in the know who have been close to him and stuff. Now, people are trying to get him to retire, and we've seen some stuff. There's been rumors where he's had to pull out of fights, slurring on TV and stuff like that. So it's not like it's crazy. So I was really wondering, after everything that I've heard, how is he mentally? Like, what? Like, I mean, is he okay? Does he have brain damage? Is his chin gone? Like, what? What is there? He's never been knocked out. He still wears punches really well. I mean, you don't really see him get rocked. And honestly, the only time I can really remember him getting really, really, really beat up, I mean, of course, Volk. Well, no, Volk beat him the last fight, and he did. But Poirier, up a weight class, like that, I actually remember Poirier hitting him, going, "Oh, those are big." In my head, they were. It was even worse than the Volk stuff, but he wore stuff well. Whatever. I saw some interviews with him about this fight. He seems cognizant. He seems clear. He actually sounded clearer and more coherent and functional than I think he has in a long time, and that rested a lot of my worries on it. On a technical level, you got Arnold Allen, first of all, who's huge and has like a weird hunchback. Just as a human, I'm like, are you like the Hunchback of Notre Dame or something? Like, he's just a weird looking dude with a tiny little head and a tiny little jaw and this giant frame. He's like the white Yoel Romero in the wrong weight class. But he moves well. He actually moves in and out pretty well.
He's like Mirzakhanov.
Yeah, he kind of moves like in that movement. But if you watch him with Kattar, and this is a difference. It's Calvin Kattar, and you watch Rob Font, you watch Calvin Kattar. Those guys are hands high, and you know exactly where they are. They press. They're not in and out type of movement guys. And so I think Arnold Allen won round one of Kattar, but that's not uncommon. Kattar takes a little while to get going. And Arnold Allen did not create – it's not like Arnold Allen threw a kick or did something or did anything offensive for Kattar to blow his ACL out. Kattar jumped. Arnold Allen moved out of the way, and Kattar landed weird. So, and then, of course, he kicked it afterwards. But it wasn't like 4 rounds in, beating him, hurt his – whatever. No. He's just right there doing his thing. Then you watch Arnold Allen with Sadiq, and already dropped Sadiq. He looked good, but I thought his wrestling was his best kind of strong point there in that fight against Sadiq, who seems kind of small to me, especially against Allen, in that division. He's a tweener. I think he's going to be a small 45er. I don't know that he could ever make 35 in his life, but whatever. Difference between Max is Max floats the space. He'll move backwards and he moves in and out, but he has like kind of a wider hand space. If you guys can see my hands, his hands are a little bit more in front instead of tied right to his temples. So when hands are right at people's temples, you know exactly where they are, or you know exactly. But Max has a wider hand stance, for lack of a better term. His hands are wider, they float wider, and he rocks in and out, and he draws you in, and so you think he's there, but he's not, and he kind of comes and goes a little bit. And that, I think, is going to give Allen a very hard time. Separate from that, Arnold's opposite stance, and Max throws those knifing oblique kicks. He throws those down. Other thing he does is he floats that right knee high to get people to kind of react to it, and then he steps forward in the opposite stance and throws his right hook. I think Max is really creative with his strikes. I think his footwork is phenomenal. I think Arnold is going to be chasing him a little bit, and I mean he will kick, he will punch. More so than anything is he's going to attack the body. And I think the difference in this fight is going to be Max Holloway's right hand to the body. I could see a lot of right hooks to the body, and then coming upstairs after those right hooks start to land, getting him pulling on feints, attacking the legs, stepping through with those opposite stance punches. He's okay to trade in the pocket. I think it's going to be that right hook to the body and his body work that's going to be the difference. And I think Max is going to have a really good showing here. And then I guess my only real question is what the hell does he do? He's lost 3 times to Volk. Where do we go from there? Does he go up? What happens? I don't think Arnold is going to be able to out-wrestle Max. even if he does get him down, I think Max pops up. He has good jiu-jitsu. I really like Max here. I think his evasiveness, his ability to move, like we talked about just a minute ago, to float in and out instead of being so stationary is the difference. But also combined with that, his willingness to trade in the pocket and just sling leather with how good he actually is from a boxing pocket standpoint. His ability to blend those two things is, I think, going to be the difference here.
I don't think I need to say much more. I'm totally on the board with you. I think the cardio is also going to be a factor in a 5-round fight. Max has shown to do it time and time again. I don't think there's a huge grappling upside to either one of the guys. And then you got the volume. You got, honestly, the general wherewithal. And you're right. I think he wears punches well. I mean, that Volk fight was brutal to watch, but he wasn't out on his feet. He wasn't, rocked every punch. Like, he wears punches well. He's still the man. I think this is a great buy low spot on Max Holloway.
And Max is only 31 still. I mean, you think he's like 60. He's 31. I mean, he's got a lot of miles on him, but I really like Max here. And I think, honestly, even go back and watch that first round with Yair. And Yair is long and tall and lanky and one of the trickiest people out there right now. Max was doing great. Wearing punches, landing stuff, getting Yair. The other thing, too, and I didn't mention this, Max mixes up wrestling, and not in the traditional way that we think, but he reaches for that hand and pushes you, the old Chuck Liddell. I think that was the first I ever saw, is Chuck Liddell would reach for it with one hand, push on your chest on the other hand, and get you off balance. And he does that a lot, and he does these weird little tricky wrestling kind of level changes, catching your feet, getting you off balance a little, not your feet, but the back of your knees, gets you a little bit off balance. And then he blends that well and he gets you thinking about it. And then now you're thinking about that and something else occurs. So I think he's still right there. I think he's good.
Still the man.
Still the Hawaiian man. 808. Anything else before we go?
I think that's it, guys. Thank you for being patient. We're going to try to correct these issues. Not the producer's fault this time. It is Apple. So Apple, please get us a sponsorship. $5,000 a month per each of us is our asking price to show that your products aren't faulty. And that's it. That's all we got.
Right the wrong, Apple. Right the wrong.
Face the music.
All right, guys. We will see you next time. Happy betting.